There you go.
Okay, cool. Okay, hopefully this is working, guys. Just gonna do some restorative yoga today. I have never used my phone before because for some reason my computer was acting up. So I don't even know how to see the chat or anything. Looks like I do have some of you joining me though. So really for Yin, for restorative yoga, it's, I think, important to have a lot of props. So I've got a couple of blocks here. If you don't have any kind of bolster, couch cushion works, a nice rolled up blanket. And then you can go a couple of ways with your sound. You can do music, that's just nice and relaxing in the background. If you want to follow me on Spotify, I'm Yin Kristen. Just all one word, Yin Kristen. And the playlist that I would recommend today is called Yoga Nidra. It's just really relaxing. So trying to get this right. You're just gonna have to sit there the whole time. Can't figure it out, take it out of the case. All right, so we'll get started here in a moment. And if you can't catch this live, I'll keep it on my Facebook page. I'm not sure how to see any chats or anything like that, so anyways, feel free to chat. I can look at it later. And we'll get started with some seated meditation, and then we'll do some breath work and then start to recline. So if you'd like, you could do hero's pose. That's where you widen your knees, they're together. Knees are together rather, and your feet come wide, and then you sit right down in between. Otherwise, you can sit yourself on a block or some sort of support. If this isn't working at all for you, then easy seated pose. Okay. Close your eyes, you can have your hands in your lap, or you can have your hands at heart center. Eyes can be opened or closed, and just deepen the breath. And you don't necessarily have to structure the breath for this practice, but sometimes it's nice to get that kind of oceanic quality to it so that it's audible. See if you can fill all compartments of your lungs. Take about 3 more deeper breaths here. And after you've completed a few more breaths, we'll come into toe stretch. So this can be fairly intense here. That's why we'll only hold it for a minute. So a couple of things to keep in mind is having support in front, and that will lessen the intensity of the pose. So as you lean up a little bit here, you have to tuck all 10 toes underneath. Sometimes that pinky one's kind of hard to get. So really get all 10 toes underneath for toe pose. And I'll time us for 1 minute. We'll start here. So ideally you want to lean back, stretch out the fascia and connective tissue in the feet. But if that's far too intense, you can go forward a bit to relieve the pressure. When things get intense, see if you can focus on the breath. And nice to see some of you here. We're halfway through. Especially if there's no pain, it's just intense. See if you can stay with it. One more deep, full inhalation. Stay for a long exhalation. And then to release the pose, come forward. Your hands can be on blocks or they can be on your mat. Tops of your feet to the floor and simply just tap it out. Return the circulation to that region. Maybe just a little bit of movement with the hips. All right, we'll come into tadpole pose, which if you're familiar with child's pose, that's what it is, child's pose. A couple of things here, we'll hold about 5 minutes. Now, I like to time students and also let students know when we're halfway through. So you can certainly go without any support, knees are wide, toes together behind you, and then you can slide forward and just stay right here, forehead to the mat. If you think, well, my feet might fall asleep after some time in this position, then do find your couch cushion or a bolster or your rolled up blanket, and you'll slide that directly behind your knees. And knees can be as wide as you'd like. And then from there, you can always load yourself under the front side body. So you can roll up the blanket or the bolster or several of these, perhaps use a block. And then I'll let us know when we're halfway through, okay? So about 4 minutes here. Now as we go through the course of the 4 minutes, if you're noticing some uncomfortableness, something just doesn't feel quite right, I always recommend rearrange a bit. And then if that doesn't get you settled in, then maybe find something else for you, something similar to this shape. And again, I'll let you know when we're halfway through in case you're interested in a turn of your head to one side or the other. And let that breath be nice and audible. It is a nice stretch for the low back, but you should feel it in inner thighs, groins, back of your hips. Take one more breath here. And now that we're about halfway through, if you did turn your head in one direction, switch it out. Perhaps you were more neutral and had your forehead to the floor. You can drop your arms down by your sides at this point. And just about another minute here. I'd like to add in one more thing after a couple more breaths, just a brief stretch side to side in our tadpole. So one more deep inhalation. Nice long exhalation. And then if you are already in neutral, you can stay right there. Probably don't need too much support underneath your chest as we simply walk our hands all the way to the right, as far as they'll go today. You can stack your hands or they can be side by side. Rest your forehead down, hips stay down, getting a nice stretch to the lateral side of the left body. One more full breath in. Breath out. And same thing to the other side. Walk your hands just as far as they'll go today. So you feel a similar sensation down the right side of your body. Forehead to the earth or perhaps some support. Let's take 2 more breaths here. When you feel those breaths are complete, once again, walk yourself back to center. And we'll ease out of this as you slowly lift up onto all fours. And slide your legs behind you for Sphinx pose. So I really personally need some sort of support underneath my chest. It just allows me to sustain the posture. But also, I like to add the block. So whatever support you need underneath your chest, and then whatever height of the block is appropriate for you. And just think the Sphinx in Egypt, right? So your forearms are pretty much parallel to the long edges of your mat. And then settle in here. Let's do about 3 minutes or so. And then see if you can soften a bit through your glutes. If you need to take your legs a bit wider, if there's some uncomfortable sensation in your low back, take your legs a bit wider. Otherwise, you can be a bit closer together. I'll let you know when we're halfway through. Now as we approach that halfway mark, see if you can not only find stillness in the body, but stillness of your mind. Notice your thoughts. Just like those ocean waves, the thoughts roll in, then allow them to recede back out and away. Soften where you can. Nice, easy, again, deep breaths. We're almost there. Give yourself about 2 more rounds, in and out. And then we'll ease into the next posture here, which is half floor frog. So usually you don't need too much support for this. I actually like to use my hands for my support. And then what you do from here is you bend your leg, bend one leg, but make it at a 90-degree angle. So your ankle's in line with your knee and your toes face out and away from your body. And then as you recline, a couple things. Traditionally, arms are at a T when you think of a frog. And turn your head in the direction of your left leg, unless you prefer to take the head the other way. But just be mindful that the knee is not down too low, nor is it up too high. And then if you'd like, of course, you can keep your head turned in one direction, but if it feels better on your neck, I like to stack my hands and rest my forehead upon them. Now, it might be possible that your knee is a bit uncomfortable, the bent knee, so you can just slide a little piece of blanket underneath there. And you should definitely feel this in your adductor, inner thigh muscles. Some of us will come a little bit more flush to the floor with our leg than others. That's fine. Don't force it. So we're right about that halfway mark. If you did turn your head, it can stay. If you want to switch it out, you can, but we still have another side, so don't overthink the position of your head. Deep, expansive breaths as you feel your body kind of rise and fall here. Think of, again, like an ocean wave. About 3 more breaths. Nice, deep, even in length. Just let that sound calm and soothe the mind and the nervous system. And then as we ease out of this, come on out. And then I'm a big fan of straightening out the legs just for a moment. Release side to side. And then a moment or two here in seal pose. So not very long, because again, it's a fairly intense posture. So a couple of options to just have your hands kind of at a diagonal to the corners of your mat, Or I like to take them a bit off the boundaries of my mat and then begin to straighten your arms. See again if you can soften your glutes, soften through your shoulders, and gaze can be straight ahead. And this is a great way to find flexion through the spine, or extension of the spine rather, and openness through your chest. If it's really uncomfortable to your low back, widen your legs a bit, but you should definitely feel this in your lower lumbar and probably front of your psoas, front of your hips. We're over the halfway mark, hold on. And then as you release, you'll come on down. And then same thing other side, half floor frog. So it might be tough to see me in your screen, but if you did need that bit of blanket to pad your knee on the first side, you'll probably need that again. Not always, but often. Then bend your leg to 90 degrees. Remember, toes are a bit flexed, so they're turned out and away. And then lie down. If it worked before, you can stack your hands. If you'd like the kind of goalpost arms, and you did turn your head in a specific direction, I'd recommend switch it out, look in the opposite direction, stay here, breathe, add in any padding that's needed. We'll still, again, let you know when we're halfway through. And be sure there's some sort of similar sensation to the first side, right? Inner thigh, possibly glute muscles too. Groins. And depending on if you've turned your head, you might feel it in your neck. Okay, we're at that halfway mark. So again, at this point, you need to rearrange or turn your head to create balance in your body. Go ahead and do so. About 3 to 5 deep breaths here. After this next breath is complete, take your time, lift yourself up, and then once again slide your legs back behind you, maybe a little bit of movement, windshield wiper your legs. And then come on up, make your way into seated. And then we're approaching about halfway through practice, almost there. But before we get into the next two poses that get into outer hips and glutes and possibly hamstrings, depending on the variation that you take on, you might want to grab a sip of water. Take care of yourself. And then we'll do shoelace pose. So a couple options for shoelace. For one, start with the right leg no matter what on top. You bend the right knee and then you stack your knees one on top of each other. And we'll just go ahead and call this half shoelace pose. And even if you can do the full variation, there's a lot of benefits to this because if you choose to fold, you'll get deeper into the back of your leg, your extended leg. But it can also be really nice to open hips for full shoelace, where you stack, both knees are bent. And then if you do need some sort of support, you can add that in, especially if you want to lean forward. Now, so for some of you, this may be plenty. We'll take just 3 minutes on each side. So if this is plenty for you, great, and stay. If you need to extend the bottom leg. But either way, you have the opportunity here to do a forward fold. And then you might notice lots of activity in the hips, lots of sensation there. Don't over focus on the range of motion. Again, just on the sensation. This is a great posture for spring. Gets into those lower chakras. But again, these target areas are outer hips, inner pelvis, groins, low back. And again, if you've extended the bottom leg, you'll feel behind your calf and into your hamstrings possibly. We're halfway through the hold. So if you've not chosen to fold forward and you want to experiment with that, you can always try on the additions that I give you, and if your body's saying no thank you, then return to where you began. Just about another minute here. Sending the breath into those places of tightness and tension. Letting the exhale help release that out. One more deeper breath in. Long breath out. And then if you did choose to fold, you'll lift back up. Okay, nice and easy, lift back up. Lean back a bit, especially if you took that forward bend. And then feet can be flat to the floor. And a little bit of movement side to side. Just to return some circulation back through your hips. And then same thing other side, either your half shoelace or full variation. Opposite knee on top though. And check it out because each side's a little different. Otherwise, full variation, both knees bent. Root your sits bones into the floor, and you can sit up nice and tall like this. Or if you did before, just know each side might possibly be quite different. I know it is for me. It's this side that's a bit tighter. So take in the support. Find the right height for your blocks. And then send the breath into your hips. And this one, it can be fairly intense. So that's why I do just about the 3-minute-ish time work. Still see if you can find stillness amongst the intensity within any of these poses. Now we're about halfway through here. Stay with me. Continue to let the breath be audible. Perhaps you start to feel a bit more sensation of surrender, of letting go. Let the posture do the work. One more breath.